Cesare asks, what is for you proper balance between taking in refugees from the Middle East and safety measures for U.S. and Europe? Okay, that's a great question. So, when you look at the United States, when you look at the right wing in the United States, for example, the right wing is like, yeah, we don't want, like Trump said when he was campaigning, let's ban 1.6 billion Muslims from coming to the U.S. Let's shut it down. So they want totally sealed borders, and they just want to stop everybody for any reason whatsoever. Oh, no, wrong. You're not coming in. Okay, that is an insanely far right-wing position, and yes, it is almost the definition of bigoted, because you're saying 1.6 billion Muslims. You're all close enough to ISIS or Al-Qaeda or jihadists that we're not going to let any of you in. What about this? What about secular Muslims? What about liberal Muslims? What about genuine refugees who don't want anything to do with an extremist ideology? They just want to live a decent life and they're trying to escape from those people. Wrong. You're Muslim, so you got to stay out. So you have that far-right bigoted position on refugees. It's not just in the U.S. A lot of places have it. There's a rise of the far-right in Europe as well. But then you also have, as reflected by some parties in Europe, you have this far-left idea on immigration, which is kind of this bleeding heart liberal idea, which they're coming from a place that I get. Like, I get where they're coming from, where they say, well, look, we got to help these people. These people are in dire need, so let them all in. And in many cases, you literally didn't have any vetting process set up. You just let them in. Let them in, help them. This is what good people do. This is what we're going to do. Now, in my mind, the correct answer is definitely a moderate position, which is, I'm going to let in refugees, and I'm going to let in a lot of refugees, but I'm going to have rational, intelligent vetting systems in place. So the way it works right now for the U.S., a lot of people don't know this. We have the most strict vetting system in the world. It takes about a year on average for somebody to get in here, because there multiple government agencies do background checks and get records, and they do biometric screening, and that, I think, is the answer. I would never sacrifice the vetting process that we have, because I think you should vet people. But I also would never say, I'm just not going to let refugees in, because a lot of people really need our help. And it's the basic, correct, morally right thing to do. The just thing to do is to understand, hey, what if the shoe was on the other foot and there was some sort of nuclear attack or some sort of fucking super volcano in the U.S. and we had to flee somewhere else, and somebody said, hey, asshole, look at the statistics for mass shootings in the U.S. White males do over 60% of the mass shootings. Do you see the number of gun deaths in the U.S. every year? 32,000? Or even more than that? Over 10,000 homicides? You have a gun violence epidemic and a crazy white boy epidemic. I'm just not going to let you in if you're a white boy. But I didn't do it. Yeah, but others did. So we're just going to judge you by your demographic group. Oh, well, fuck that. So how would we react in that situation? We call that bigotry. Well, it's also bigotry if you say I'm going to keep out all Muslims or I'm going to keep out all Arabs or whatever the fuck it is. So yes, allow in refugees, do the right thing, but yes, have vetting to make sure you're getting people who aren't terrorists. That's obvious, I think. And then also what I would do is make sure Europe fucked up in that they let in refugees, but then what they do is they allow separate, distinct, almost segregated neighborhoods. Okay, that's in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. That's a fundamentalist Muslim neighborhood. That's a secular liberal neighborhood. Well, guess what? You're never going to get along like that, because you're not united under one banner of, hey, we're all British, we're all German, or whatever the case is. You have this rigid dichotomy, and the differences shine through over time, and there are cultural differences that never get ameliorated. So the right way to do it is melting pot. Easiest answer in the world. So the U.S. has been much better with, accommodating refugees and integrating them because we actually integrate them. So, the melting pot is the right kind of multiculturalism. The kind of multiculturalism that has separate, segregated communities is bound for failure. So the answer is let in refugees, but vet the refugees, and then make sure they go to secular schools and they mix with all the other Americans and they feel just as American as everybody else. That's the answer.